Good day, everyone. Today, our group will be talking about Beyond Good Vibes Only, the true cause of toxic positivity in a global world. We will look into how positivity, while it sounds nice, can sometimes ignore real feelings and struggles, and why that can actually do more harm than good. Let's begin with a simple idea. Positivity is good, but what happens when positivity becomes a requirement, not a choice? The roots of toxic positivity trace back to the rise of the self help movement in the early 20th century, deeply influenced by the New Thought philosophy. Thinkers like Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, made optimism a cultural ideal. This was further amplified by humanistic psychologists such as Maslow and Carl Rogers, who emphasized self actualization and the potential for growth. Then came the positive psychology movement led by Martin Seligman and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. It was groundbreaking, emphasizing happiness, well-being, and emotional strength. These ideas helped millions, but as these concepts entered pop culture and social media, they sometimes became distorted. Instead of encouraging healthy optimism, society began demanding constant positivity, even when it was emotionally harmful. Cognitive dissonance theory explains what happens when we force positivity over real emotion. We suppress, we hide, we gaslight ourselves. This emotional suppression, while subtle, can lead to stress, anxiety, and emotional burnout. Different cultures contribute to this in unique ways. Japan's Japan's gabate and Indians India's santosha, Korea's waiting, and Brazil's jaishin yo all reflect societal pressures to stay positive or resilient, regardless of one's emotional reality. So here's our thesis. In an increasingly interconnected world, the cultural phenomenon of toxic positivity, rooted in self help ideologies and amplified by global media, hinders effective communication by invalidating emotional diversity, suppressing critical problem solving, and fostering inauthentic environments.
While it may seem harmless on the surface, toxic positivity can actually be quite damaging, especially in multicultural environments. First, it invalidates diverse emotional expression. In the West, showing emotion is often encouraged, but in East Asian or collectivist cultures, emotional restraint is valued. When someone says, just be positive, to a person from a different cultural background, it can feel dismissive or disrespectful. Second, it hinders problem solving and growth. Emotions like frustration or disappointment are signals, clues that something needs to be addressed. But when toxic positivity tells us to ignore those feelings, issues are left unsolved. Imagine a multinational team where no one feels safe voicing concerns. How can they improve? Lastly, it creates inauthentic environments. Social media glorifies positivity and perfection, but this results in a shallow interaction and a culture of emotional gaslighting. When people can't be honest, trust suffers, and without trust, true collaboration fails.
The goal of this presentation isn't to attack optimism. We all need hope and resilience, especially in challenging times. But it's important to understand the difference between genuine optimism and forced positivity. By learning the roots of toxic positivity and its impact across cultures, we can make our communications more inclusive and honest. My purpose is threefold. First is to educate, well define what toxic positivity really is and what is not. Second, to raise awareness of how it damages cross-cultural communication. And third, to empower you to use empathy and emotional intelligence in your interactions, whether personal or professional.
In Pixar's Inside Out, we see a clear example of toxic positivity through the character Joy. At first, Joy believes Riley must always be happy, so she treats sadness like a problem. She stops sadness from touching memories and pushes Riley toward happiness. Even when she is struggling with moving to a new city, this reflects toxic positivity, trying to erase or avoid negative emotions instead of addressing them. But as the story develops, Joy realizes that sadness plays an important role in helping Riley process pain and seek support. The film's message is that all emotions, both positive and negative, are necessary for true healing and emotional balance. In Pixar's Inside Out, we see a clear example of toxic positivity through the character Joy. At first, Joy believes Riley must always be happy, so she treats sadness like a problem. She stops sadness from touching memories and pushes Riley toward happiness. Even when she is struggling with moving to a new city, this reflects toxic positivity, trying to erase or avoid negative emotions instead of addressing them. But as the story develops, Joy realizes that sadness plays an important role in helping Riley process pain and seek support. The film's message is that all emotions, both positive and negative, are necessary for true healing and emotional balance. In Pixar's Inside Out, we see a clear example of toxic positivity through the character. In Thailand, toxic positivity often shows up in workplaces through phrases like good vibes only. This blends with a cultural value called jayen, which means keeping a cool heart and avoiding conflict. While harmony is important, it can pressure employees to hide stress or frustration instead of speaking up. Experts warn that this forced optimism can reduce trust in leaders, prevent open connection, and eventually lead to burnout.
Toxic positivity is the pressure to stay positive no matter what, even when things are clearly not okay, while encouragement and optimism are valuable. Forcing constant cheerfulness in the workplace can be harmful. It often leads to ignoring stress, dismissing real concerns, and making employees feel guilty for expressing frustration and burnout. This creates a culture where problems were swept under the rug and honest communication is discouraged. Instead of promoting fake positivity, workplace should support open dialogue, validate emotions, and balance optimism with realism. That's how teams grow stronger by forcing challenges together, not pretending they don't exist.
Toxic positivity happens when we insist on staying cheerful no matter what, like telling someone to look on the bright side or just stay positive right after they've experienced something painful. While it's often meant to encourage, it can actually make the other person feel unheard, as if their emotions are invalid or even wrong. The truth is, sometimes people don't need silver lining, they need understanding. Instead of jumping in with an upbeat response, try validating their feelings. You can say things like, "That sounds really hard," or "I'm here for you." These simple words let them know you're listening and that it's okay to feel whatever they're feeling. When we give space for honesty instead of forcing optimism, we create real connection and help them feel safe enough to heal.
This slide shows the global impact of toxic positivity in cross-cultural contexts. A 2020 McKinsey report found that global teams practicing radical positivity had 40% lower engagement compared to teams that encourage open emotional expression. In the case of Filipino overseas workers, many are told to be grateful or don't complain about homesickness or labor issues. This mindset forces emotional suppression and worsens mental health. Lastly, in many countries, mental health frameworks often fail to consider cultural factors that drive emotional suppression, especially in high pressure professions. This creates barriers to genuine emotional well being in the workplace.
So, what do we want to take away from this? That authenticity matters more than constant cheerfulness. True communication, especially in global settings, requires space for all emotions. Positivity is not the enemy, but forced positivity can be. If we want to build workplaces, communities, and relationships that are resilient and inclusive, we must start by acknowledging all human emotions. Because connection begins not with perfection, but with honesty.
We believe this message is effective because it's grounded in both science and lived experiences. We've used real world cases, respected psychological theories, and relatable cultural examples. And more importantly, we've framed it in a way that speaks directly to you. Through visuals, stories, and clarity, we hope this message resonates not just intellectually, but emotionally. Because the real test of effective communication is whether it inspires change. And we hope this message inspires you to move beyond good vibes only and embrace something more real.